Yeah, hello, welcome back everybody once again to another live stream on the perfect preservation of the Quran. So we began this series on the perfect preservation since last year. The purpose of this series is to look at the claims of Muslims on the perfect preservation of the Quran and to really check if this claim is actually a fact, because it's a different ball game. Anybody can make a claim. You can even make a claim that it was the Quran was supernaturally came down or appeared or whatever. That is left off to you. But when we fact check these claims, are they actually true? So, and that is the purpose of this um, topic. And we are in the earliest Quranic manuscript. We've looked at some few, or we've done an overview on some few. And today we'll be looking at the Mahil manuscript. And uh, the reason why we came late, we should have been earlier on, is we actually had a kind of a breach in communication with Dr. J. Smith. So we would have to recontact him to get him to come up live, because he should be the one to take this session. He's still going to take it by the grace of God. So, but there's a kind of a breach in communication between ourselves and himself. So we apologize for that. So we are going to get back to him. Then we'll get back to you on when he will be coming on to take on this session. We are sorry for any inconvenience we might have caused you. We take full responsibility. So in so in the absence of Dr. J. Smith for now, we'll just do an overview of the subject. Then he is going to come back and take it properly. Okay. So the Mali manuscript. So what is the Mali manuscript? The Mali manuscript is actually the manuscript found in London. It's in London, and it's also called the Ijaz manuscripts, or that is from the Ijaz, meaning that it's from Mecca, Medina. And the reason why it is said to be from the Ijaz is because of the writing style. You know, when manuscripts are being dated, okay, there are different ways of dating manuscripts. You can date it by carbon dating, you can date it by paleography, you can date it by calligraphy. So it depends on your dating style, but you cannot use it, like I said in the last previous live stream on top copy, that when we did the overview of the top copy, that carbon 14 dating is not actually reliable on a manuscript. The reason is because you don't on a parchment, especially because carbon 14 dating cannot actually account for when the dating was actually done. It cannot account for it because it will only account for when the animal was killed. And you know, if you are to get a parchment, the first thing you have to do is that you must have to get the animal skin. And to get the animal skin, you have to first kill the animal. Okay, so when you kill the animal, that is when you get the parchment. So when you then take that parchment to carry out a test of carbon dating on it, it's only going to tell you when the animal died, not when the manuscript was written. So that is one of the bad side of carbon 14 dating. It does not give you the actual dating, but rather paleography and calligraphy, especially paleography, would actually give you a more accurate dating. Okay, so because it was written by within the Ijaz, it was said to be an Ijazi manuscript because of the writing style, because of the paleography. Okay, and so when you see how it was written, it is written in a slanting form. I don't know if ETM apologetics can actually bring up the picture of this Mahid manuscript, so you can see how it was. Yes, exactly. Thank you. So can you see the writing style? How it was written? It was written in paleography form. Okay, so that is it. So it was said to be written in the Jazz. Okay, but when Dr. G. Smith comes, there are some questions that I would want him to to answer as regarding the where the my manuscript is written from. I have the answer, but I just want him to throw more light on it. So yeah, so the scholars that actually did work on it, you can scroll down, Uji. Dr. Tarasi Kulish actually had access to the Ma'il manuscript from 2002 to 2007. So that is, he had 5 years. He did a research on it, a study on it for 5 years. And the conclusion of Dr. Tarasi Kulish, I think I've told you who Dr. Tarasi Kulish is. For anybody who does not know who Dr. Tarasi Kulish is, Dr. Tarasi Kulish is a Muslim scholar based in Turkey. So he's a Muslim scholar. So you cannot say he's being biased, but it's based in Turkey. So this was Dr. Tarasi Kulish's conclusion, who had access to it from 2002 to 2007 for 5 years. Dr. Tarasi Kulish says that it was written in the early 8th century. Please, can you scroll up a little bit? He said it was written in the early 8th century, meaning that. But that is for Dr. Tarasi Kulish. Based on the writing style, it says 8th century, but not 7th century. Don't forget, the Uthmanic manuscript is said to be from the 7th century. So it is not in any way Uthmanic. Even going by Dr. Tarasi Kulish dating, saying that early 8th century, it is not in any way, cannot be an Uthmanic manuscript, because an Uthmanic manuscript must be dated back to the 7th century and not to the 8th century. Is that taken? So Dr. Tarasi Kulish dated to the 7th, to the early 8th century. While Dr. Martin Links, who is a curator in the British Library, the British Library is where the Ma'il manuscript is located. So he dated it. It is agreed with Dr. Tarasi Kulish on this. So he dated it further to the late 8th century. Whether late century or early 8th century, they are both from the same century. So they are both from the 8th century. So, but the late century is a kind of a later date by Dr. Martin Links, who happens to date it there. And another interesting fact about the Ma'il manuscript is that it only contains 43 surahs. So when you have a manuscript that only contains 43 surahs, and that of today's manuscript has 114 surahs. Now, the reason why this is very, very, very important, you might think that this is not, it's very important. The reason why it's important is this. It is important because Muslims often claim perfect preservation of the text, of their text. And yet, when we look at all these evidences, when your text says, when you, one of the earliest manuscripts you have only has about 43 surahs, and yours has, the present day has about 114 surahs. So there's a question of where did this, where are the addition of other manuscripts? And number two, this manuscript that you have, the Ma'il manuscript, how come it only has 43 surahs? What happened to it? If the way you guys cherish and protect the Quran that way, why can't you protect this manuscript so well? Would you say it was cut off, or it was eaten by goats or sheep also? So that's the question. And it's a parchment. So we expect it to kind of outdate the papyrus leaves. Okay. So it has only 43 surahs. Number two is that it only contains 53% of the Quran. It only contains 53% of the Quran. So therefore, you cannot put the Ma'il manuscript and that of the 1924 Quranic text side by side and say the Ma'il manuscript is actually the same with today's Quran. No, it is not the same with this one, because the Ma'il manuscript only contains 53% of the present day Quran, and it does not completely agree with today's present day Quran. As a matter of fact, there is no manuscripts that actually agree with the present day Quran. So, in conclusion, again, this isn't the Uthmanic manuscript. This isn't complete. How then can Muslims claim the Quran is perfectly preserved without any early manuscript to check the content with the one they have in their possession today? So when you have a manuscript that is not complete and then it is not Uthmanic, then the question is, how then can you actually analyze that, or how then do you know that today's present Quran and that of Uthman is actually the same when you do not have the Uthmanic Quran at your disposal to compare with side by side? The best you can have is the Mali manuscript, the Sana manuscript, the Petroponasa manuscript, the Hal Husseini manuscript, the top copy manuscript, and the Birmingham folio. That's the best Muslim have. And even the irony of it all is that if you then compare all these 6 Quranic manuscripts, which are the earliest Quranic manuscripts, there are no other manuscripts that you have. Like somebody said in the comment section that he said, we Muslims have different manuscripts. Of course, I agree. There are other manuscripts that are in your possession, but none is as early as all these 6. These are your earliest manuscripts that you have. None of your manuscripts is dated above any of these manuscripts. So when you now compare your earliest manuscripts with your present Quran, then you begin to have variances. Even when you just even take your earliest, your present day Quran aside and compare those manuscripts, that is those 6 earliest Quranic manuscripts, compare them together, you begin to see discrepancies in those 6 earliest Quranic manuscripts, which means that you are still having the same problem Uthman was trying to solve. You are still having it to date. Even in the 8th century, different Quran. Even today, you guys still have the same problem. You have different Qurans, still the same. You have the Hafs, the Wash, the Alduri, the Hakisa. These are all the same problem that you've been having from the beginning, even from the time of Muhammad. The same is still happening, because when you look at the case of Umar and Hisham, when Umar had to seize Hisham by the neck and drag him to Muhammad and say he was reciting Surah Al Farouk in a different way, and Muhammad began ask them to recite it together. Asked for the first one to recite it. Hisham recited his own, then Umar recited his own, then Muhammad said, oh, it was revealed in different haruf or whatever. But we know that Muhammad often lean or often use the approach of dodging a kind of a huge mistake. It is not common for Muhammad. Just take for instance, when he was confronted about Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Mary, the sister of Aaron. What did he later said? He said no. He said actually the people of the Haitians, they usually use the names of holy and good men as their name. Come on, I'm not familiar with any people that uses that. But you understand what I'm trying to say, that this is Muhammad tactics. He usually look for a way to actually escape out of hard questions, and this is what actually happened in this place also, because number one, Hisham and Umar were from the same tribes, so also it cannot be a dialectical difference. Another thing is that even if it's a dialectical difference, this is common. When you have villages, cities, or towns that are very, very close to each other and they speak the same language, but because it is a different city, village, or town, or city, whatever, the intonation, that is the dialect, will be different. They might even have some words that will be different, but different word that carry the same meaning. Yes, it is possible. We have it in ancient times, and even in today's times, we have it also. Do you understand? Take for instance, my own parents, my biological parents, they are both from the same state, and they are both from the same state, but the only difference is that they are from this different city, different villages. My mom's village is not too far from my dad's village. Only you can just take about just about 15 minutes ride to my mom's village. But my dad, who is not living in my mom's village, understood my mom's language properly, and he can speak it, even though they speak the same language, but they have dialectical differences. So you can have one Arabic can be one, but spoken in different dialects and with kind of some words will be different. It is possible. So since all these men, according to the standard Islamic narrative, they are all living, they are all speaking Arabic, but because they are from the same different tribes, and because of the tribal differences, it does not really mean that they won't understand the differences in their language, in their intonation. So therefore, if Isham was speaking, probably was reciting that surah Bedouin language, and Umar probably is from Quraysh tribe. So if Isham was speaking it in a Bedouin dialect, so because they are already interwoven, and they are distant, their cities and villages are not so far from each other. As a matter of fact, there will be cross marriages that some of them is going to marry somebody from Bedouin, while the other can marry somebody from Quraysh. So they will understand each other's language. So definitely, if Isham was reciting in a Bedouin dialect, and Umar is from Quraysh dialect, he would understand Bedouin dialect. Also, though it is a different thing, you actually reciting it in a different dialect, but you mean the same thing. But for him to then grab the dude on his head and drag him to the prophet, it shows that it wasn't about dialect in any way or in any form. So the issue of different dialects, different Qurans, did not just start now. It began with Muhammad. Of course, we know that Muhammad was the one that taught Ubay ibn Ka'b and Abdullah ibn Masud Quran. He even unpicked them and said, these are the best reciters of the Quran. Learn the Quran from them. And yet, these two, they came up with different surahs of the Quran. One had 111, another had 104 surahs, and they both learned it from Muhammad. So you can see that the fact that Isham and Umar learned that verse from Muhammad, and they are both reciting different things entirely, it shows that Ibrahim ibn Ka'b and Abdullah ibn Masud learning the same thing from Muhammad, then coming about with different surahs, shows that this thing is not a new thing. It began with Muhammad himself, and Muhammad himself was well aware of it. That is the reason it keeps on repeating itself, even in the time of Abu Bakr, going to the time of Uthman, even after the death of Uthman, we still have it in the 8th century, which happens to be during the Umayyad Empire, and then we still have it during the Ottoman Empire. Then we still have it even in our own time today, that we still have different recitation and different Qurans that carries different meaning entirely. So the Quran, so the Maya manuscript is nowhere near perfect preservation, and therefore it cannot be regarded as a complete Quran and not an Uthmani Quran, and does not agree completely with today's Quran. And the question still stands. Dear Muslim, which manuscript did you use to write out the 1924 Quranic text? Can you please tell me, can you please show us the manuscript you use for the 1924 Quranic text? So if anybody have anything to add to it, you can go ahead. ETM, do you have anything to add?
No, I'm so learning when it comes to the manuscripts. That's very great. But it looks like one of the Muslims want to join to see what they got. Belial, if you're still there, you want to join?
I think he's still there, yeah.
Right. If you post a link, Christian Apologetics, let's see, this. Okay, nice.
Let's see what happens.
So that's the link to join if you want to join. I mean,
Oh, did you say something to me?
are they not you? No, not you. I mean, we need a fresh dude. Probably, what is this guy's name? Was it not Bilal? Bilal Ahmed would love to have you on stage. Not Aladdin, please. Yeah, you can say whatever you
Aladdin,
want.
yeah, Aladdin, no one is afraid with you. Me personally, I've spoken to you about 10 times already. And in fact, last time you joined, you didn't even want to speak to me. The issue is not being afraid of you, is that you just cannot behave yourself whatsoever. I don't know what it is, but whenever you join, there's always constant turmoil and arguments, and it always comes from you. So it's not my decision. It's the decision of the host. It's the way you act, and there's nothing I
Yeah,
can do about that. If you clean up your act, then fine. But you know,
yeah. Clean up your act, Aldin. If not, you wanna constantly mock belittle people. I'm not tolerating belittle. So if
case
you
in,
wanna come and belittle people, and you know me, I will disrespect you properly, and you know me already. So
case in point, he's literally saying in the chat, "You're underage. Don't talk to me."
So that's exactly one of the reasons we decided not to bring you on stage. Okay, not that we don't like you as a person, we like as a person, but we do not like the actions you put up most times when you come on stage. Belittling, especially when we bring up guest speakers, the way you disrespect our guest speakers, even we ourselves. Take for instance, you've and on times whenever you've called me a filthy chicken, you called ready to reason filthy Christian. I can't mention how many times you've given um, Johnny apologetics names and ETM apologetics. So even our host, you talk down at them, you talk. So you cannot keep on having, you cannot keep disrespecting us. We, can't you have a proper conversation without talking down, without without belittling and calling names and insults? So because of this, we do not want this kind of attitude on the channel. So we decided that you're not going to be coming up. If you fix your character, you fix your attitude, then probably we can consider it. But for now, you're not going to come up, and we will not allow that disrespect any longer. So we are not afraid of you. Nobody's afraid of you. We've had discussion with you times the number, and so that's it.
yep.
Hey, when I start doing my live streams again, in about May, maybe you can join Aladdin. We can speak some more. But just so you know, I'm not gonna tolerate the way you act here. We can have a respectful conversation, but I'm just not gonna tolerate what you do in this channel. By the way, where's the dude? What's his name? Bilal Ahmed.
Yeah, I was expecting him to join.
I pressed the wrong
Now
thing.
there we go, Aladdin. There we go. There we go. Be careless about you.
You know,
You said you
go ahead, I'm sorry.
go on, go on.
Oh, I have a video that I edited like 4 to just post 2 weeks apart. Next one coming out is actually with Aladdin, where he starts off saying like, "Oh, the Bible teaches that Lilith is the first wife of Adam," and then like 15 minutes in, he completely denies that. So I mean, I would say that's the reason he doesn't want to talk to me, because that's exactly what happens when every time we speak. And I wasn't insulting him in that conversation; it was respectful, to be fair. But it's like, if that's going to happen every time, I could see why he wouldn't want to talk to me.
When do we insult Prophet Muhammad? When do we insult the prophet? When do we insult
Well,
the prophet?
Muhammad insulted the pagans, so but he's okay with it. And you expect
I
us
mean,
to
if I should say your prophet slept with a 6-year-old or a 9-year-old minor, and I called him a pedophile, how is that an insult? Isn't it a fact? What anyone that sleeps with a minor or marries a minor, what are they called?
Mhm.
That is the generic name given to them. So when I call him a pedophile, it is not an insult, it's a name. That's a name given to such people. So it is not an insult. If the name sounds insulting to you, then you should go and you should go back to Al Bukhari, go back to Muslim, tell them that they are the problem, not me. Because I'm actually quoting your source to you. Okay? If I should say your prophet is a wife beater, these are the things that are in your sources. So it is not an insult, it's actually what he did, except if you would present evidences that all these are not true, that your prophet did not do any of this. So that's not an insult if that's what you count as an insult. Okay. So we never insulted your prophet. I never call him any names what that is not what he did or who he portrayed himself to be. So
I'll
we
be the
never did
first
that.
to say, sorry, yeah. I'll be the first to say any Christian that goes out of their way to insult Muhammad, if they're not making an argument, like if you're critiquing the marriage to Aisha, that's one thing. That makes sense. But if you're going out of your way to just insult for the sake of rage bait, then that's ridiculous. Don't do that. That's not Christian behavior. But there's no problem with Christians trying to point out things like the marriage to Aisha. I don't usually use those arguments personally, but if a Christian does that, there's no problem with that. They're making genuine criticism. Like not like how Aladdin in the chat right now is lying about the Holy Spirit and Mary, and also Bilal is I'm gonna butcher his name. I'm sorry. Bilal Ahmed. Is he joining or what? Because he's there, and I know he's there. He wanted to join.
Bilal, what are you doing, bro? And you want to join?
I think Aladdin is convincing him not to join.
Trying to convince him to join.
So I
Yeah, I
mean,
don't.
please don't talk to them on backstage. Bilal, except if Aladdin is your prophet, then you should listen to him.
Hmm.
Well, since your prophet is dead, so do what you want to do. Come up on stage and let us have a discussion.
Now
Come
they're
up on stage
talking
and
about
let us have a discussion. Don't
Aisha too.
yeah. Jesus came over his mother in form of Holy Spirit, made his mother pregnant to give birth to him. Incest.
Hmm.
I mean, John, do you have anything to say about that?
About what this
Jesus
part?
Christ committing incest with his mother.
Oh yeah. No, because first of all, Jesus is not the Holy Spirit. They are the they are the same God. They have the same divine essence, but they are distinct persons. And to put it simply, a person will be who you are. So Jesus is not the Holy Spirit because he's not the same person as the Holy Spirit. So to describe that as incest is nonsensical. Um, Now, if you want to get to the point of whether Mary was consented to it or whatever, that's a different point. But to say that it's incest is to just completely misunderstand the Trinity, and it would just be modalism. Yeah, they're equal insofar as their essence. They're not equal insofar as their personhood. They're distinct persons.
Hmm.
Do you have anything to add, Johnny? I mean, Etienne.
Yeah, well, if you want to go that game, every argument you turn back against him. And according to the Quran, Surah 66, verse 12, the Holy Spirit in Arabic Ruah, it blows in Mary's private part. So why is the Holy Spirit blowing in Mary's private part? Do you have any problem with that? Hmm.
By the way, you guys don't have to do this because obviously you don't want him up. But if you were to let him up, we could do it with the condition that he talks to me. But you guys don't have to do this. It's all up to you. Because he wants to keep rambling about the Trinity and misrepresenting Christian doctrine. I'm not gonna overtake this live stream.
Yeah, so Holy Spirit raped Mary. Make her pregnant.
Which didn't happen, by the way. Mary, I forget the verse, I think in verse 35 of Luke chapter 1, she literally says, "Let it be so," and then later in like chapter 2, or is it in chapter 1? I don't remember which one, but she has a whole song of praise. So, yeah. I'm not interested in the Bible. I'm here to speak about it. I don't know why you're quoting it, dude. I wouldn't care to make these challenges if you don't talk about the Bible. If you're not talking about the Bible, then cool, just...
Okay, it looks like Bilal is not coming, so you can make your final words and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah. Okay, folks. Once again, the Maida manuscript is not an Quranic manuscript. That's number 1 point. Number 2, it contains about 53% of today's Quran. And number 3, it does not agree completely with today's 1924 Quranic text. And what does that tells you about the perfect preservation myth being popularized and being parroted by Muslims? Now, if you want a chain of perfect preservation of a text, then starting from the man who brought the text, which is Muhammad, then to the present day, when you begin to look at the manuscripts of the Quranic manuscripts you have as a deposit, they should at least, even if they are not complete, they should, number 1, agree completely with the one you have. Let's say, take for instance, let's say the top copy manuscript only has about 30 surahs. At least in the 30 surahs it has, it should have the same, it should be word for word the same with today's Quran. And also the Mile manuscripts also should be the same. So all these manuscripts should be the same. They should not disagree with each other. So with that, even if they are not complete, even if they're not complete, but provided that the little words they have, the little surahs or chapters they have, agrees with today's Quran, goes a long way in proving that your text or that your Quran is actually perfectly preserved. But when you have a 1924 Quranic text today, which to me it was also standardized, because we've been having the issue of the Quran has been undergoing standardization from starting from the death of Muhammad to 1924. Even I'm still expecting further standardization of the Quran. Okay, now you now have a Quran, a manuscript that agrees, that disagrees with today's present day Quran, and this manuscript is from different century. You cannot expect that if your Quran is perfectly preserved, then the ones we have in the 8th century, 9th century, 10th century, 11th century, and above should agree completely with today's Quran. There shouldn't be any discrepancies. But if they do not agree completely, and there are discrepancies within them between even manuscripts within the same century, like the 6 earliest Quranic manuscripts, they are all from within the same centuries, but they are all located in different places, in different countries. Yet they disagree amongst themselves. They do not agree completely. Now, would you call such book perfectly preserved? Now, I am not even talking about intentional consonantal changes, which we are still going to go into, that the there are places in those manuscripts where it was erased, where some were taped just to cover up some things. And yet you will say nobody can change the words of Allah. And yet those that are giving you this manuscript are changing the word in their lifetime. And then you will still have the effrontery to come up and say the Quran is perfectly preserved. This is a challenge to you Muslims now. Bring out a Quranic manuscript that is completely perfect, that agrees with the 1924 Quranic text and agrees with the Sana manuscript, the top copy, the Birmingham folio, the Petropolitan manuscript, the Hal Uzaini manuscript. Bring the manuscripts out, and we'll then shut up and say, you guys are correct. Because it's even impossible, because since the 6 earliest Quranic manuscripts disagree with the 1924 Quranic text, and that is what you guys are using today. There's no way you can bring out a manuscript that actually agree with the 6 earliest Quranic manuscripts and the 1924 Quranic text. It's impossible. So the evidences that we have at our disposal suggest that the Quran, number one, is not in any way anywhere near perfect preservation. Number two, is a book created by man, not by God, because it keeps on undergoing standardization. They had to standardize it in 1924 also for you to have it being read. And yet, even the standardization is still showing loopholes. Now we are having Wash Quran different from the halves. Now we are having Hawduri different from the halves. The same problem Uthman had in his own time when he standardized the Quran. Then a century later, we begin to have different manuscripts springing up, saying different things entirely. So, folks, the only way you can claim perfect preservation of the Quran is for you to close eyes on the evidence and deny the evidence completely. Only then can you say the Quran is perfectly preserved. Anything outside that, if you have to look at the sources, be factual, and follow the evidence where it leads you, you will get to the same conclusion, and you will say, indeed, the Quran is not perfectly preserved, and it's a book that was created by man. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Once again, we want to apologize for not bringing Dr. Smith up today. Not that we don't want to bring him up, but there's a bit of communication gap between us. So we are going to give and make an announcement as regarding that, whatever we actually agree on. Okay, so we are very sorry for that. Please, we'll let you know, and we are not taking your support and the love you have for this ministry for granted. Joining us on the live stream, learning, and also equipping yourself. We are not taking this for granted at all. And trust us, it is not that it is any way intentional. Neither is it intentional in the part of Dr. J. Smith. It's just about bridging communication, which by the grace of God we will fix this coming week, and we'll get back to you guys. Thank you very much for your time, and God bless you. Johnny, Apologetics, if you have anything to say, you can say it now.
Thank you so much. And
No, nothing else.
see you guys.
That's everyone. I don't have anything else to add.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us. For myself, Johnny Apologetics, ETM Apologetics, and Ready to Reason, we say bye-bye, and God bless you. Stay glued in the grace of God and in the God of grace. Till next week, bye-bye.